we're going to go to Heartland now, whether you like it or not, because they can't get to the Caribbean unless they control or can pass through the Pacific. Right? They don't transport. They don't magically appear in the Caribbean. That's why the Panama Canal is so important, but also that's why the islands are so important. And there has been this big hole in American strategic thinking around the center of the Pacific, and this is what led up to World War II. Right? The U.S. had the Philippines and it had Guam, so it thought it could contain Japan off the Asian coast. And I have a map if you want, but basically Japan, through its control of the Japanese mandate, had control of what's now the Commonwealth of Northern Marianas, Palau, Federated States of Micronesia, and Marshall Islands. So it controlled the heartland, the strategic heartland, the pivot, the geographical pivot of history in the center of the Pacific. We've been sort of brainwashed to a European strategic map. That Eurasian landmass was a Mackinder invention. He was European. The world island was Eurasia, Europe, and Africa. America was sort of on the periphery. But for the concerns of North America, our brain has been distorted by these Eurocentric maps. If you put the Pacific at the center of the map, then you can see that unless the U.S. has control over or has strategic denial over the Central Pacific, the U.S. isn't safe. And it's not just the periphery. It's not just the Philippines or the treaty allies, the first or second island chain. Unless you can get to the first or second island chain, unless you have that denial and maneuverability within that heartland, and that includes up to the Aleutians. I mean, Billy Mitchell was talking about this in the 30s, right? If you have control over Alaska, then you can control a lot of that zone as well. So it's the Aleutians, and then down through that Central Pacific. That is the what is at play, and everything that we're seeing in the Caribbean, we're seeing the Chinese do in those islands, including in U.S. territories. I testified before Congress last week, and the representative from Commonwealth of Northern Marianas, who was on the Commonwealth Ports Authority board of Tinian. Tinian is where the U.S. is rehabilitating those airfields, those Northfield airfields. She approved the setting up of a Chinese-linked casino on that dual-use port. And her questions at that hearing were all about how to increase Chinese tourism. Chinese can arrive in the Commonwealth of Northern Marianas now without a visa. And from there, they're legally going to Guam and elsewhere. And her framing was, unless this continues, and unless we get direct flights from mainland China into the Commonwealth of Northern Marianas, then their entire economy is going to collapse. That's the only solution. Chinese tourists are the only solution. And those Chinese tourists have been illegally buying U.S. driver's licenses, illegally selling drugs, distributing drugs, found on the bases. So we're starting to see the same sort of infiltration that you're seeing in the Caribbean, seeing in American territory, in the heartland, with the goal of, I think, reestablishing the sort of control that the Japanese had in the center of the Pacific, which puts them in a position to strike Hawaii. And we had that incident where Admiral Keating at the time was testifying and said, one of the Chinese guys said, you take Hawaii East and we'll take Hawaii West. I think that's what they actually want to do.
Sign up for free and be part of the movement.
It isn't just an app. It isn't just a social media platform. It's a community.
Download Getter right now.